Today we are talking training aids, and one that I've been using recently in my lessons and even in my own practice, what it is and how I've been using it, and if you want to try it, hopefully you'll find some good results with it too. Guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Matt Fryer, PGA professional, and if you do like this video and you want to subscribe, hit that button down below. We release videos like this every week to help you improve and enjoy the game a little bit more. So I was recently sent the Pro Sender by my friends at Golf Swing Systems, and I've been experimenting it with some of my students and also been using it in my own play. And like I say, I just want to share my findings with you because I know it's a very popular training aid at the moment, probably the most popular training aid or talked about training aid in the golfing world. And sometimes I think there's some good ones out there and there are some bad ones out there. And if I can use them, give you my thoughts, my feedback, what I'm seeing the best uses for them are, hopefully, if you do end up using them, you're going to get the most out of them. So there's two products here. We have the original Pro Sender with the little connection sphere, and then there's their latest one, the connection sphere. I'm going to touch on this one, the original one today, but this one, another fantastic product, which I've not used as much in my lessons, but I am starting to use it more frequently. But this one, I want to touch on this because I found three things that are really starting to help a lot of people, and even my own game, I'm finding it's really starting to help one certain area for sure. So a little bit about the Pro Sender before I actually get into the three uses that I've found with it. It's a wrist cup basically that sits onto your wrist, so you get a Velcro attachment here that you place onto your wrist, and you then pull it tight and you lock it into position like so. And what you'll find there is that once it's in, you want to have it so the base of the wrist is at the bottom almost at the cup, so as you lay your hand back, it sits into this carbon fibre cradle that we have. There's also this squidgy little ball as well that has a Velcro base on it that we are able to attach onto the wrist strap as well, which you can use them together. You can use the wrist cup on its own, or you can even actually just place the ball in without anything and support it in that sense. So there's three uses for it. I'm going to start with one that I found really helpful, but just to tell you what the idea of this all is, just so you can get a good understanding if you are thinking of using one. Well, basically the Pro Sender is the brainchild of two great PGA professionals, and one was actually Tiger Woods' former coach, Sean Foley. Now, people would maybe argue the best golf coach in the world, but that's totally up to you. But basically, the reason why they've come up with this device is that they've seen thousands and thousands of golf swings and work with some of the best players in the world. And what they're talking about is one of the factors which I really like and what I believe in my coaching is that the club face is king. And if we are to control the club face and get it to deliver back to the ball how we want to in a consistent manner, we better create some good angles throughout our hands and our wrists to help control that, because ultimately, once I get my hands on the golf club, that's going to have an effect on the club face. So by using this Pro Sender and actually being in charge of how you actually create the angles, and sort of once you touch the cradle, you actually create the angles that you want. So it's upon you, the onus is on you to actually do it. Some training aids are sort of restricting you into an uncomfortable position that says this is the position you want, and right, get used to it. As well with this one, it's almost a little bit of self-discovery. You do have freedom of motion here. I can move my hand however I want, but I've got to do it myself in the right manner to create the right angles. But before even doing that, one thing that I found a really big help with is using it for just chipping shots. Now, if you think, a lot of amateurs and a lot of people that I coach, or people that you might be watching this at home and think this sounds like me, when we have chipping issues, it's because generally we're trying to get the golf ball up into the air, and we think, well, if I help it up in the air, that's going to produce the shot I want. It's not the case. And even here now, if we just sort of look where I am, my hand isn't on the Pro Sender here, and I wouldn't be delivering the impact positions I would want to create that good chipping action. And what this does, if you were to just take your grip and actually just set the club back here, so you're starting to hinge the wrists how we want, we see that the hand actually starts to sit on the pro sender there. And what I get my students to do is feel that they carry this angle through and keep the hand on. So I wouldn't advocate that this is how you're going to look when you're chipping, but as an exaggerated feel to go from totally the opposite, where my hand wouldn't be on the back of the cradle, the head is out racing the grip, and I'm getting this sort of helping up motion, to something where I put my hand just into it, I take my grip, and I just try and create that on the way back and then carry it through. Not only does it see that the hands and the grip are leading the head and I get that shaft leaning forwards, what it also makes me do is rotate the body. So I've had a lot of success with students in just hitting little chip shots and just finding we get this connection here. And just look at my finish there. I've turned, I've kept the angle as I'm going through. What I'm not doing is, like I say, giving it that sort of helping hand and getting this sort of motion going on, which, like I say, it might be you at home now thinking, oh, that sounds like me. So for me, working with my students, that is the first sort of thing that I've found this pro sender to be very, very useful for. Set it and just turn that body and get some little chip shots working and feeling this rotation, working from, you know, 5-10 yards off the green to 50-60 yards, just hitting little pitches like so, has been a real benefit, just to try and find that consistency of strike with a lot of my students. So the second use that I've found, and this is more for myself that I've been finding this one, this is setting the club and setting the wrists in the backswing. Now, for myself, I'm someone who, over the period of years that I've played golf, I used to have a very strong grip, and it would almost sort of set into a position where I didn't want to on the way back. And what I would do then would be leave my hands getting a little bit higher on the way down in an aid to try and actually get the face a little bit squarer. But with this now, and the main big goal is, like I say, a little bit of self-discovery and being self-taught. As you're making the backswing, as I'm getting my lead arm up to parallel to the ground, I'm trying to get my right hand to sit into the sender here. So then when I get up to the top, I know that A, I've created the angles I want, and also as I've done this with my new grip, I can see that my face is nice and square as I'm going through here. What I'm not looking for is something where I used to get a little bit short and wouldn't quite have my hand reach the sender here, get a little bit short, and then sometimes I would get across the line and be nowhere near. So by having my more neutral grip and just up and stop, I sort of already know without looking at this now, having the back of my hand sit in the cradle, I know that I've got the correct hinge in my wrist, I know that my face is square. So for me, it's something that once I do this, I then don't have to try and get into a position where I'm causing all these manipulations and compensations throughout my golf swing. So I've just been hitting shots, and what I'm finding with it is that not only is my strike getting better, but my start line and curvature is really starting to limit with this. So I've only spent maybe 2 weeks with this, and I would like to spend maybe, you know, the next 6 months really hitting balls, because early signs, just hitting little shots like so. I've got 8 iron here and I'm only going to try and sort of fly at 140, but going smooth with it and just getting that feeling of setting it in and just going through there, it's just giving me that was probably the worst strike I could have hit. And I'm not actually that far offline there, just a tiny little pull. I felt myself shut the face down ever so slightly, which again leads me back to that sort of self-discovery. With a lot of training aids, you are forced into positions as where here, as I got up then, I felt my hand come off ever so slightly. So even just through a few rehearsals now, I'd exaggerate, trying to keep it on, and that feels different to what I've just done there. So then hopefully on my next shot, I would feel that sensation and sort of correct the problem a little bit more. So up, just a small little one, chip it and try and keep it in. Yeah, and there we go. I mean, that's proof in the pudding right there. Pretty much straight down the line. I'm not aiming to hit the green there, but what I will see like there through those small feelings each time, it's in, I'm feeling it, and in. Feeling it just setting, and it's starting to give me that little bit more of a neutral feel each time as I'm going through it. Just overdone it, but again, a good strike and not wildly offline, starting to find some real consistency. So if you're someone, you know, if you find a coach who is using one of these or you're investing in yourself, I think it's a great way to really get that strike throughout the golf ball, but try and just give yourself that feeling and that acknowledgement of, yeah, that's correct. I know what I'm doing to create the correct angles throughout that backswing, and then keeping them in the transition. Now, the third and final thing that I've found it very useful, more so with students, it's not something that I try and actively work on myself. I'm pretty close to being on plane always. I don't get too exaggerated with certain movements, but once we throw in the connection sphere and you just literally place it on like so, what that does is literally create some connection. So once I would take my grip, you can see there that the ball squishes in between the two parts of my lower forearms. And once I've actually got the club involved here, what I would see is now that, yes, it's going to feel a little bit weird at the start, but what I'm able to do through this, and what I've found as like I say, a good thing with students, is that a lot of the times we may create good angles in the backswing, but a lot of the times we're eager to try and get that club down to the golf ball. And straight away as I do this, you'll be able to see from here now, that ball is coming off my lead forearm. So I get up to the top and I want to go down, I get a little bit steeper, which we know is a common fault for amateurs. And we see this disconnection there, and ultimately I would come through and I would see even more separation instead of seeing some connection. So what I found with a lot of students is that if I'm just in, I create the connection, and because the ball is quite soft, you're able to just give it a little squeeze with the forearms there. I've been finding that if we get up to the top and I'm saying to them, right, can you feel that you now squeeze the ball up into your forearm? We can see the motion this is creating, and it is a little bit of a buzzword and a little bit of a trend sometimes, but that shallowing of the club, for me, even if you're just getting it a little less steeper, that's fine. It's not, doesn't have to be completely laid down, but what we would want to see is that we're not actively getting it jammed forwards and getting it steep. If we can just use the connection sphere just to feel a little bit more up, let it touch, just that little motion, and just notice the club there as I'm doing this just falls behind me. And then I say to them, as we're doing that, can we just try and feel that we're keeping it on the whole time as we're getting through into impact, and then some sawn off follow throughs? Can you try and keep it there for me? Because not only is that going to create that, like I say, a little bit of a shallowing, it's also going to create some good rotation of the body. So as I'm going through, instead of losing it, getting the arm swiping across, let's feel up, a little squeeze, and squeeze it through, and we'll see some good rotation. Like I say, small swings, slower swings. If we can feel this, what we should start to see again is that little bit of a shallowing, and again, a little bit of a better strike, and seeing that we're starting to get the club moving how we want to. Not a bad golf swing. It's not one, like I say, that I use a lot on myself. I use it more for the second thing that I was talking about. But I think 3 great ways there to use this Pro Sender, not just trying to use it in one specific manner. If you can use it for how your golf swing is working, you could probably find a good way to use this training aid. So guys, that is 3 ways that I've been finding the Pro Sender become very useful for myself and students. If you want any more info, do head over to Golf Swing Systems to check it out and find out a little bit more about the product. But one that I think is living up to that name of the world's best training aid. It does some very, very good stuff, and I think if you were to spend time with it, you would see real improvement in definitely your iron strikes for one and those chipping strikes. So I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Something a little bit different and something that we want to do a little bit more of on the channel. So let me know of any training aids that you would like us to have a look at here on the channel. Subscribe and hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in another video very soon.